apologize for starting a bit later than 7 tonight. A lot being discussed in executive session. So before we start our regular meeting, I'd like to ask for a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
And then, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then I'd like a motion to seal the minutes of executive session.
So
Am I right?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we're at the regular town council meeting now. Mrs. Lavoy, if you could call the roll, please.
Carrie McGee.
Here.
Deborah Bacon.
Here.
Karen Carlson.
Here.
Glenn Shibley.
Here.
Greg Labasanier.
Here.
Nick Gorham.
Here.
Graham Waters.
Present.
Okay, and Mr. Spearman, if we could ask you to be so kind to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And while we're still standing, if we could bow our heads. Dear Lord, we ask for your guidance tonight. We ask for your blessings for us here tonight and our family members. If any family members are ill, if we ask for their recovery, and we ask for people to be kind to each other and be safe as we head off into a stormy day for tomorrow. Amen.
Amen.
And Mr. Spearman, on the evacuation plan, please. Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, next on the agenda, I have a proclamation. I would hope Sarah Lavoy might be present tonight. Sarah, okay, and with your folks, I understand, hopefully. I have a proclamation to present to you, if you would come up to the dais at this time. This is, as I mentioned last council meeting, Sarah was one of the top 2 youths in Rhode Island as volunteers for 2018 by the 23rd Annual Prudential Spirit of Community Awards. So let me present it to you. Are your folks here? Yeah. Okay, is Mr. Raymond, is it? And is it Jennifer? Yes. Well, congratulations to you folks. And we're very, very proud. All of us on the council, personally, I'm very proud because it's in my neighborhood. But what I'm going to do is just read it on behalf of all of us in the audience. Town of Coventry, County of Kent, State of Rhode Island, and Providence Plantations. Certificate of Commendation, Sarah Lavoy, for the Prudential Spirit of Community Awards. However effective government may be in serving the needs of its citizens, the soul of our cities and towns and its vitality as a place to live and work depend on the relationships of families, friends, and neighbors. Strengthening those bonds is not as much in the hands of institutions or governments as it is in the hearts of the people. Individuals who volunteer to help people of all ages, races, and religions cope with illnesses, overcome hardships and barriers, adjust to social changes, and fulfill their potential. These volunteers are the unrecognized, unsung heroes of our society. Sarah Lavoy, recently named as one of our state's top honorees in 2018, the Prudential Spirit of Community Awards program, exemplifies the value of volunteer community service and is a role model to other youth as well as adults in our community. A surprising number of volunteers in communities across the nation are like Sarah, a student contributing time, without expectation of reward, other than the gratification that comes from helping others. Some of these young people work in established groups, others seek new and unique ways to help others on their own. Recognizing these young volunteers and encouraging others to follow their example is the aim of this nationwide program conducted by Prudential Financial and the National Association of Secondary School Principals. Its aim is to reach into every community in all 50 states and the District of Columbia to identify and honor these unsung heroes locally, state by state, and then nationally, in the hopes that their recognition will serve to stimulate others to volunteer service. As the Town Council of the Town of Coventry, on behalf of the citizens, hereby commends Sarah Lavoie, our Prudential Spirit of Community Award honoree, for her outstanding volunteer contribution to others and our community. And therefore, in honor of this achievement, I am proclaiming March 12th, 2018 as Sarah Lavoie Prudential Spirit of Community Recognition Day in Coventry. And congratulations. Washington, D.C., correct? Against all those coming in from the other 50 states and District of Columbia. It's already a $1,000 winner, correct? And I think it's a few more dollars coming when she wins down in D.C. So congratulations. You put that together pretty nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And again, it's times like these where, it makes the community very, very proud to have such outstanding citizens, especially in the 8th grade, middle school, and the sky's the limit for Sarah and her family. So thank you for taking the time to come out tonight and receive the award. And I know she's got to get back and do her homework, so if she has to leave, that's okay. You don't have to stay for the whole night, that's for sure. All right, next. President's comments. I have a couple. First of all, special congratulations to the URI Rams and the Providence College Friars. They both did outstanding jobs. I don't know if anybody's a basketball fan, but it does give our state a lot of pride. Both teams lost in their finals of their division tournament championships, but both were very, very close. PC went to overtime and lost by 10, but again, it was much closer than that, and they had a chance to win. URI lost by 1 point to Davison, who is a very good team as well. Both of the teams are going into the national tournament. Both PC and URI. Now, I got to tell you that it's quite an honor for any college team to go to this national tournament out of the 64 teams across the nation. But I look at the brackets and I discover that not only are they both from Rhode Island, as we know, but there are no other teams in the tournament from New England. There are no other teams. Not Massachusetts, not Connecticut, and I went down the list 3 times. And that's quite an honor. So when PC or URI or both win, it's New England winning. It's like our Patriots. And we wish them the very, very best. Next, congratulations to the Friendly Sons of St. Patrick and the parade coordinator, Michael O'Connell, on their most successful 59th annual parade held yesterday. It was very crowded. I can't remember it being more crowded in the 10 years that I've walked in it, and enjoyed by all. And what was really nice, it was a beautiful day, as we recall from yesterday. Not so nice today, and definitely not so nice tomorrow, but congratulations to the Friendly Sons of St. Patrick on their excellent job. 59 years it's been going. Also, on that note, we've received an invitation to the members of the town council from Mayor Henry Winthrop of the city of Newport has invited us to attend Saturday, March 17th, to celebrate its 62nd annual parade. So they've got us in Patuxent Valley by 3 years. So that's Saturday, and at 9 o'clock they have a mass, 10 o'clock Irish breakfast, and 11 o'clock they step off from the Newport City Hall. So if anybody is interested on the council or even just attending, they would love to have us there, the city of Newport. Another notice, and I've seen this in the Kent County Times several days and weeks in a row. As usual, the General Nathaniel Green Homestead is asking for volunteers. They're needed to be tour guides for this upcoming season. And they will also be holding an informational meeting on Saturday, March 24th. Not this coming Saturday, but on the 24th at 1 p.m. at the Homestead Museum. So if anybody's interested, and they say you don't have to have experience, and the schedule is flexible, if you wanted to partake in our state's history and volunteer, I feel that we should get that word out as well. I know the Kent County Times religiously sends that out in their newspaper. Another notice, as I think we've all heard by now, warning that the state is anticipating a severe snowstorm with snow accumulations for tomorrow, possibly up to 12 inches and or more. The town recommends staying off the roads, if possible, so that the Department of Public Works can do their jobs, both at the local level and the state level. If you have to go out, please do so carefully in driving, because it's not going to be too nice. It's the third northeaster in the last 2 weeks that's hitting our state here in Rhode Island. So we hope it's not as bad as they're forecasting. Lastly, as the President's comment, we have received a letter of resignation from a member of both our Sewer Subcommittee and Sewer Board of Review. I'm very disappointed in what has occurred on Facebook over the last week or two, which ultimately led to the reason for the resignation, as well as the overall tone of the letter. But moving forward, the Town Council will now undertake to appoint a new, well-qualified resident of Coventry to the Sewer Subcommittee and the Sewer Assessment Board of Review. And as far as President's comments, that's all I have at this time. So next on the agenda, we have acceptance of the minutes for the February 26th meeting. At this time, do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any comments, discussion?
I just would like to exclude myself from the vote as I was not present at the meeting last.
Yes, sir, and that's noted. Okay, understandable. I have one slight correction on the first paragraph, President's comments. Additionally, President Shibley noted receiving notification from Sarah Lavoie of Coventry. Actually, the notification came from the Prudential Financial Organization, and they notified me about Sarah. So that's actually, I guess it's about the 8th line down, and that's just the only correction I personally have. So if there's no other amendments or corrections, then all in favor? Aye. Minus Mr. Kevin McGee, which was not present for the meeting. Okay. Next, we have council updates. Why don't we start my far right, Mr. McGee?
Okay, I just want to take a minute to personally thank Sarah. It's a real honor to have you part of the town and the work that you're putting in and volunteering. It's really nice to see a award come like that to someone like you who's put so much hard work in. So it was a pleasure to see someone from town receive that award. So thank you again, Sarah. You should be proud of yourself, and your parents should be very proud. Next thing I want to do is just bring mention to, we've had a rough winter with some storms, and I think the DPW's done a great job. I have hills like Hill Street that are amazing, how the people can travel on that road, and they've kept it clear. So just kudos to the hard work that DPW has put in. So, and I guess they're going to have their work cut out for tomorrow. But besides that, I have nothing else to report in the district. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McGee. Mrs. Bacon, District 5.
I have nothing tonight.
Okay. Mrs. Carlson, District 1.
Just a couple of things. The Flickr study, I know that we are getting close, maybe. No, we're not, but part of it's finished, correct?
Part of it, but the relevant part is still more.
Okay, so no projected end date to that study at this point? We'll wait with bated breath. Number 2, the tree warden. We have a town tree warden. Oh, sorry, by the way, welcome everybody. I'm surprised we have that many people tonight considering everybody's supposed to be out there at Stop and Shop getting milk and bread tonight. Mr. Waters, our tree warden, in relation to him, I have heard things at the land trust meetings and stuff and how he goes out and does things, but does he ever, travel around town and look at possible issues with the trees and the lines? I mean, that's such a huge discussion now with National Grid, and whose responsibility is it to watch for the trees, whether it's a state road, a town road? Would this fall under the tree warden?
That's something I'd have to look into. Before the tree warden was reappointed, I wasn't too familiar with the position. So if you want, I can look into what the duties and
would you? 'Cause
responsibilities of the warden are and get back to you.
I'd like to know what the tree warden does. Okay, thank you. And lastly, I think a lot of us probably have heard about the concerns with Brady Sullivan and the issues at Harris Mill and possibly Anthony Mill. I'd like to ask that we have something put on an agenda in maybe the next meeting, the 26th, to discuss the town's part as far as what the building inspector did when those mills were being renovated and the COs were being issued, the minimum housing inspector perhaps, what role the town played in signing off that these were safe buildings, and now we're hearing about all the lawsuits and the issues with people having health issues and everything. So I'd like to put that on an agenda just to get some information.
Okay, so you'd like town staff as far as the building department to be present to
Well,
answer questions?
did we have a building inspector on those projects from the town? And did we have the minimum housing inspector out there to?
That was before my time, but I would
No, I
assume so.
understand. It
I
was
can look
barely my
into it.
time, yeah. But I think that's just something we should look at too, since they're the company that got the amazing $900,000 or $840,000 break on their sewer system. Yes, I'm going there. That is, what? Sorry. The last two things are an update on the outdoor gun range issue and the abutters notices. I have, Ms. Wells and her staff have written 2 amendments for me. I'm hoping they should be on the next agenda. There are amendments to the ordinances saying that no outdoor gun ranges in any district, and also increasing the notice area when there's something coming up to the zoning board so that more abutters know what's going on, because sometimes we just don't get the word to everybody. So that, I've been told by, I guess, I think Mr. Gorham told me it's going to be on the 26th agenda per the Mr. Shibley from the other day from the agenda meeting, holding that to the 26th.
I did not mention the 26th myself, no.
Oh,
I haven't even seen the amendment yet, so,
It's,
Nothing's
it was supposed to be for tonight, and then you told me it was going to be held over to the 26th.
well, you couldn't do it on the 26th, in fairness, because you need to have 3 weeks advance notice,
No, for the first read, right?
Yes, you
It
could.
has to be discussed and
You
put out for
could,
the
yes,
first
you
read.
could do the first reading, or you
Yeah.
could just have it on the agenda for a discussion. You can always just
I think we
discuss
need it on the
something.
agenda for, at least for the discussion and to get it out there for the first read. It's before any other applications come in and all of a sudden they're grandfathered, as we know that happens. I think this is an important issue that obviously was a huge town-wide
I think
discussion.
sort of traditionally since I've been here, I know shortly after I first started and we had the conversation about the Stonewall ordinance, there was a request by council to have the items on the agenda when it came to a zoning ordinance or other ordinance as a discussion item before they went for a first reading.
Well,
So
then let's do that.
everybody's familiar with what's being presented to them. So we can, for the next agenda, we can put it on for a discussion item.
But then
on
it
the
takes another
26th.
2 weeks to decide if we're going to
Correct, yep.
advertise it.
Right.
Well, that's another month.
It would be on the 9th.
Right. Today's the 12th. It's 3 days shy of a month. I just think we're kind of poking along sometimes with these items, and I'd like to see faster, things get done faster.
Sometimes things that get done fast.
Well, we're still discussing it before we vote on it.
Yep.
It's not like we're just going to throw it out there in a newspaper, but
Okay.
let's
It'll be on
move
there.
on this.
Okay, thank you. Mr. LeBassinier.
Just as a note, there may be one or two of us not here. There's at least one of us not here on the 26th, so if there's any discussion on that, we would not be able to take part, or I would not be able to anyway. And it's an important issue that I would like to certainly discuss as well. Again, I just wanted to reiterate that I thought the DPW did a great job of the last storm, and thanking them in advance for the coming storm. Other than that, nothing else in the district.
Okay. District 4 report, only asking for all District 4 residents to make an effort as soon as they can to clear their sidewalks in front of their properties. Again, we had a tragedy occur all too recently ago, last year, and we understand there's some seniors in their homes. If they can't clear their property sidewalks where people walk, then maybe they could get someone to assist them within a timely fashion, because they need to be cleared, especially if children or people are traveling up and down the busy roadway and hopefully can use sidewalks. So I know District 4, the accident happened in my district, so I ask all districts, but certainly I'm making that personal request to help out and try to clear the walkways. Okay, that's District 4 report. And next we have Agenda B6. Mr. Waters, I guess you have Miss Caroline Wells here. You want to start off the discussion on what we have in front of us?
Item B6 is the presentation on standards and guidelines for the historic properties by the planning director, Ms. Wells, who's here. Ms. Wells, if you
Yes.
could come up and introduce the topic to the council, please.
Good evening. I'm doing fine, thanks.
This is on. Can you hear me? Okay, so you got a document that looks like this? Pardon? Up? Okay. Okay. Not always. Okay, so at your last comprehensive plan, even though it was way back in 2000, one of the recommendations woven throughout the plan was to create a historic district. And it was a long time in coming, but in 2013, Town Council did pass historic district zoning ordinance. Oddly enough, it's not actually housed anywhere. If you went to find that ordinance, you couldn't find it in the zoning ordinance itself, and you couldn't find it in the code of ordinances. Not terribly relevant, since it only at this point affects 2 properties. You're just coming in terms of preserving your cultural assets. So in Coventry, there are 4 National Register historic districts and several properties listed on the National Register. But all that really means for the property owners and for the town is that you can't use federal money to demolish those structures. That's all. That's the only protection it really provides. So with a historic district, you have more control. And you can use that status to either start incentive programs to preserve properties or cultural assets like cemeteries or stone walls or something like that. You can also use it as a foundation to expand a regulatory perspective on it. And I should add that we do have considerations of historic and cultural assets in both the subdivision regulations and in the zoning ordinance already. It is part of the review that both boards do routinely. But there isn't anything that triggers a requirement for preservation. And there aren't really any standards to kind of settle what it is we mean by preservation, because of course it can be very technical. And the federal government provides the Secretary of Interior standards for preservation, which is the gold star standard for preservation. But at the local level, you might want to develop your own standards as well, the things that you're comfortable with. So that's what this document is. It's that first attempt to say, well, what is it we mean by local preservation? How do we want to implement local preservation? So even though you only have 2 properties right now where that might affect, this document says this is how we will review any sort of applications for changes to these historic properties. And also it provides a sort of guidance for any property owner who owns historic properties, what they might want to consider when they want to change or alter some aspect of that property. And as we look toward our new comprehensive plan, this gives us something to build on. Where does historic preservation fit? Is it going to be voluntary largely, or is it going to be required in some areas? Can we build on it in a sense of cultural historic tourism, use it as an economic development tool? So that's kind of where we're standing right now. This document is really just the first step. So that's all it is. I mean, essentially it starts out with a history of Coventry and its historic assets. It goes into the review process and how that works. And it ends up with sort of best practices on historic preservation on different types of properties. So if you have any questions.
You first? Come right ahead.
I was really, really glad to see this because I don't think we've really addressed the historic properties issue.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have a couple questions.
Sure.
But first of all, if you look at page, wait, I got my tab. Where is it? It's the page where it lists the districts.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually Hopkins Hollow, not Hopkins Hill.
Okay, typo.
There it is, under the introduction on page 1.
Okay.
So, not Hopkins Hill.
Right.
Okay. I guess my questions are you going to have a public hearing on this before you, well, where are you going with this? Is this going to be in the comp plan and then submitted to statewide planning, or what will be the future?
No, this isn't actually part of the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan may reference this, but I don't anticipate it. The comprehensive plan is just too high level, and this is too fine grained.
Okay.
This is a working document. This is what the Historic District Commission will work by when it reviews an application, if it gets one.
Well, I know that it talks about some of the areas like Rice City,
Yeah.
which is out my end, and then, of course, Hopkins Hollow, Roaring Brook, and I know they all worked very hard out there to get the designation in place. So are you going to be having a public hearing on this so those people can come and say, what their experiences were? Will you have any public input into this? Is it a finished document at this
It
point?
is not a finished document per se. It's finished on the Historic District Commission's, their input. And it was actually finished more before I even got here.
Oh, okay.
It was finished a while ago, actually. We've just been tweaking it a little bit. That's a good idea, especially to create awareness. I don't think that they had really thought about taking it on the road and making sure that people understand it and have some input, as you say.
Because I know they started from ground zero at Roaring Brook, and they did the whole thing, Hopkins Hollow, and, got the designation and did all the paperwork. So I think they'd be a really good resource.
Oh, yeah,
And,
clearly.
to go through this and look at it, maybe give
Yep.
some input.
Yes.
Now, I lived in Old Town Alexandria, so I lived in a plaqued house, and that was the big thing, plaqued house. Couldn't do anything to it.
Right.
You had to have real shutters the whole night. Watch your colors, although I had a friend who had a purple one. What if somebody is in what we would consider an historic property but they don't want to be part of a historic district, because that does limit them. Is this going to be mandatory?
No, well, right now, like I said, the historic district zoning really only applies to 2 properties. And so that's the conversation that needs to be had going forward, is what is Coventry's appetite for
Right.
historic district? Maybe not in that
We've
sense.
got some beautiful homes, but
Well,
people,
for example, where I came from in Warren, they had a voluntary historic district which offered tax credits for those historic property owners who chose to preserve their properties in accordance with the standards. So that might be something to consider, at least to get the ball rolling.
yeah, I was looking at it, because I know there's federal and there's state
Right.
historic preservation credits. And it depends on, if somebody wanted to be part of this, would you give them a nice plaque to put on the house like we had in Virginia? And,
Yeah, I
you know,
think
kind of
everybody
those-
likes the plaques, so.
Plaques are cool, yeah.
Yeah, it's a status thing.
And then there were, page 45.
Uh-huh.
This is kind of important. The third paragraph, it says Coventry Fire Department with their phone number.
Mm-hmm.
That really probably should be with the appropriate fire districts, and maybe
Oh, true.
then you would list all the fire districts, because obviously Western Coventry would respond out in that,
Right.
those historic districts. So you might want to put them all down.
Right. Good idea.
The tax credits we just mentioned. I think 10 copies of the application and all supporting materials?
It's a
Wow.
standard thing. Yeah.
Okay, that's a lot.
It is.
And also, when I read through this, I was thinking, because I've had experience with this, that it's kind of a broad picture here, and I don't know how finely you're going to want to tune it.
Well, I think,
But then on the other hand, it gets really specific with windows and doorways and stuff, so it seems to be a good,
yeah, and of course, this is not an original document. I mean, it's pulled from
They
a
pulled a
variety
lot-
of different
yeah, right.
resources that are already available.
Yeah.
And I think the more detailed documents come in when you actually decide to have a true historic district in terms of, blocks.
districts.
Yeah,
right?
or full areas. And then you would probably develop something particular to that area, made up with those property owners.
Okay.
So-
Well, if you do want some input,
Yeah.
I can definitely steer you in the direction, because I know, I did get a couple emails about this today,
Okay,
and they've read it online and everything, so
sure,
it'd be great.
Yeah,
They'd
send
be
it
more
on.
than happy,
sounds good.
right? Dr. Pratt? To have input? Okay, thank you. So,
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else, any comments? I know it's very lengthy and put together, and we got it this weekend, and I guess it's something for us to look through, and barring, meetings and public comments, and then eventually, if the council saw fit, it would be approved, it looks like, on the bottom line here, eventually, but no urgency. It's just, right now, we have 2 historical properties.
Right.
But very good.
Right.
I'm glad to have it, and I know Councilman LaBosniere, you have a comment?
Yeah, I've got just a couple of questions. It looks like a great package, Carl, and very comprehensive. Now, I've got just a few questions, because I'm sure we'll have more as I get a chance to go through everything. But on it's the page 22B, staff review is what's on it now. Is that something, in essence, that would occur, and then, for instance, public hearing? Those would to determine whether a property is going to qualify for this historic status, or once it is already qualified for that, to determine the things that get done or that can be allowed on that property.
I think it's the second one mostly. So what we're saying is if you have a historic district that's already established and people are putting in applications toward that, that's just your staff review to make sure
Okay.
it's applicable, that it's complete, and then it can go on for review with the Historic District Commission.
Oh, okay, all right, so in other words, but a property that was in a particular historic district, even though the two properties we had are their own historic districts,
imagining there are
if I believe,
others, yeah.
was correct, they would apply to whom to be, to be included for whatever, maybe tax incentives or anything else that we have.
Right.
They would apply to.
The Historic District
To
Commission.
the
which would be-
Historic District Commission, who would
Correct.
just, who would.
And we would just administer it as staff.
Okay, so they would be approved by the Historic Commission and then get administered by the planning, okay. And then I've got one other question, and it's actually it's on page 30, which actually you've got a picture of mixed-use buildings, and thank you for taking a picture of Gabriel Strumpet Christian Bookstore. I've been on the board of directors for 19 years of that store. My question would be that let's say a property that housed a business in a historic district, are we creating more difficulties for a business to get things done, to make changes on the properties, and especially with a lot of the new regulations for handicap access, et cetera?
Right. So it's a good question because historic storefronts obviously have their own, with windows and awnings, they have their own issues. Right. My experience, though, is that if they are part of a historic district, there's actually more opportunity there than there is, or equal part opportunity and responsibility. Okay. So for every responsibility they have, hopefully we can get like a revolving storefront fund, and so. We have to create the opportunities so that we're lessening the burden. Do you know what I mean? If we want those historic storefronts to stay intact.
Right. Great, thanks. That's all I got for now, but it looks like a great package. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
I think we're all set tonight.
All right, thank you.
And thank you for coming out and sharing this information with us. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay, next on the agenda, B7, Mr. Waters, if I'd like to start with the explanation. And we have the package basically in front of us, two packages.
So tonight, the finance director alerted me earlier in the weekend that he was going to be out of town for a family emergency. He's going to be out for the next 2 days, coming back on Wednesday. But in your packets, you have what he included as the town's rather lengthy statement of operations, as well as a copy of the town's revenues and expenditures and revenues over expenditures for fiscal year 18 versus fiscal year 17, which was last year. A handout I gave you was a more simplified version of what he was going to discuss tonight. If you all flip to the first page, and I don't know, Ed, if you can bring up that attachment from the agenda. Is there not one on there?
Don't have it on the agenda.
Okay. Alrighty. I don't think so, no. I will read off from the presentation, and we'll put it up on the website for the public to review later. I'll also have Mr. Tebow come in at the next council meeting to go over these numbers as well. But as of the end of December, our revenues are trending more positively than they did last year. In fiscal year 17, at the end of December, we brought in $54 million of revenue. Actual year-to-date for this fiscal year, we're at 54, just under $56 million, so our revenue collections are coming in better than last year. We're also doing a better job with our spending. For fiscal year 17, year-to-date at the end of December, the town expended $51.2 million in expenditures. For fiscal year 18, this year at the end of December, we have expended $50.7 million in expenditures. We're at currently 49.6% of the budgeted expenditures for the year. So halfway through the year, we're about halfway through our expenditures, and we're right on target.
Okay. All righty,
And if there's any questions by the council, I will entertain them here. Ones that I can't answer, I will take to our finance director to have them answer. And again, have him come before the council on the 26th of March to answer those questions and present any additional information.
okay, we all have this 20-plus page packet, right, in our folders that came in the envelope, and then, of course, handed out tonight by Mr. Waters. We had the 4 sheets, or 2 sheets with double-sided. So together, we have the information in front of us. I know it'll probably take some time to dive through it, but initially, sounds good, where we've spent a little less money than last year, and we're bringing in a little bit more money this year. All these also are all by departments, are they not? A line item account, all the...
You'll have those in your packets.
Yeah, that's what I'm
the
saying.
more
That's
extensive
in the
one.
package that we
Yeah,
have.
actually, if you look on the last page,
Right.
that's by department. And I will say there was a request for an update on the sewer fund.
Uh-huh.
I can tell you that Director Tebow wanted to wait until we received final word from all of the banks that we were seeking refinancing options from before bringing information forward. Hopefully by the 26th, we'll have all that information ready and can present a more accurate picture of what our options are and what the fund balance is for the sewer fund.
Okay. Any individual questions at this point, or shall we just wait till the next one after we dive through all the information? All set? Okay, thank you, Mr. Waters. Hope things are okay with Mr. Tebow and his family. Okay, next, we do have the section public comment, and it was recommended the rules again for those that have not come before on the rules for public comment. First, public comment is subject to overall limit of 30 minutes and a per comment limit of 3 minutes. Secondly, no person may offer a second of public comment. Public comment shall be polite. Or disparagement on any member of the audience or any member of the town council. Fourthly, the council president shall have the authority to immediately halt and suspend public comment of any individual who does not follow these rules. So with that initial lead-in, the rules of public comment, let us begin. I know that Mr. Gorham, you'll be running the clock, or Mr. Warzika, you might, or someone might, because I didn't bring my stopwatch with me. But at this time, any individual that wants to come forward, public comment. And then all we ask is you state your name and address and speak into the mic, if you would be so kind. Good evening.
Good evening. Cheryl Eyrig. I live at 18 Florida Avenue in Coventry, Rhode Island, Briars Point. And I happen to see in your flyer you're going to be coming out to clean that up soon. So that'll be very nice. I like permission to come before you this evening and speak to you as a grandmother, a parent with children in the school system that have already graduated, made their way through the junior ROTC programs in the high school. Both my son and daughter graduated the program. And with that, I would like to congratulate that program because we were able to train our young people before they went out in the community. We can no longer just think about high school. We have to think about my grandson, who's 6 years old, entering the first grade in September. And I'm very thrilled for that. But he has autism nonverbal. And in speaking in that, with that objective in mind, I'm here this evening. May I approach and just show you?
Is it something that...
Pass this out for everyone. Yeah, I just, let me go back.
You have a copy for each?
For each, they're to be passed out here. I just would like to get on the agenda for next month so that the town council could consider I'm law enforcement officials at each school, in control of our schools. And with that said, all the members of the martial art community, where I have been a member for 37 years, we would like to come forward as groups working with law enforcement to go into each individual classroom and come up with a plan that will work with the children so they understand what's going on. There's 3 scenarios today in this world. Active shooter in the school, active shooter coming in your classroom, teacher down. What is my grandson going to understand? He's going to go hide and you're not going to hear him. He will not come out when you yell to him. He's not the only child that's going to happen to. They're going to panic. I say, if we've been settled since 1741, we've been teaching our kids since 1741 to be safe at home. Now we got to worry about them being safe in school. So could we just consider putting it on the agenda and consider law enforcement's station at the entrances to our schools in Coventry? And then we can move forward with the other security issues, one event at a time. But right now, I would like to see law enforcement. As you know, in the state, Warwick is covering the schools, Cranston, Providence, not just the high school where, there's 1,800 people there. There's a city there. I'm talking about Washington Oak, Black Rock, the other schools where the little kids are. The teenagers know how to respond. They're going to get out of there, go for their cars. What is my grandson and those other little kids going to do in that classroom? So thank you for listening. Was that 3 minutes?
I think so, and we appreciate you coming out, and certainly it's a concern, and
Okay.
we will take it under consideration for sure.
Thank you. Will I hear from you, or will I get back
What's
in
that?
touch?
Oh, I don't know. Have you talked to the superintendent of
I
schools yet?
haven't approached anyone till I came here because,
Okay.
to me,
Well-
this is my community where I stop.
Well,
I
we're
wanted
glad you
everyone to
did,
hear.
but again, I think maybe,
Superintendent's
through the
next.
school committee and,
Okay.
rightly would go to them, probably initially, but it doesn't mean it couldn't have come here.
Well, I'd like
Because
to hear
overall,
first.
we're all residents together.
Okay.
And we all
Thank
have
you.
concerns, and I personally have 4 grandchildren here in Coventry, so I know what
So
you're
you
saying,
know.
talking about. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay. Yes, well, this gentleman here first, and then you'll be next. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Scott Duckworth, 748 Washington Street. Going to take this public comment just to give you a Kent County update.
Well, thank
How's
you.
that, okay?
I appreciate
I'll try to
that.
keep it in 3 minutes. Okay. Couple of projects we finished at the end of last year, the Mishnock Intercept. So they came from the well over there behind S&T Hardware, ran up Mishnock Road, pretty much incident-free, get into the tank. So it's going to provide even more water for any type of development now that comes to Center of New England. Housing, whether it's biotech, another medical firm, another pharmaceutical firm, there is plenty of water servicing that area, so that's a good thing.
That is good.
We've got a meeting coming up this week. The people from Walker Ridge are on the agenda. We've tried 4 different meetings to get them on. They've had some scheduling conflicts on their side, so they're coming up, and we're going to try to help them with a resolution. So that's coming up. And most of our projects for the winter have been shut down for construction. I'm going to touch a little bit on some comments that I read from the agenda. It may not be 100%, but from Mr. McGee, Director of DPW. So we've got a couple of waterline conflicts. I know there was some contract issues that you worked through on Arnold Road. We've got a couple down in Osprey with some culverts that are positioned directly on top of water lines. You can see the water line on the bottom of the culvert. So it's the chicken and the egg, which came first. Okay, so we've got some conflicts there we're working through. We'll talk about Arnold Road a little bit. Mr. McGee mentioned that some water lines they thought were out of place, okay? Just consider this. When I came to Coventry 54 years ago, I was a baby. We lived off of Holmes Road, which was dirt at the time, right above the Arnold Farm. I grew up swimming in Rope Walk Pond right up across the street, okay? But Arnold Road was a 2-lane road, barely, and it was covered with maple trees. If anyone remembers that, it was a great thing. We walked to Veterans Market to get our groceries for my mother with a wagon. It was just a great place to live. But that road was very small. It's moved side to side, and it's gotten wider since 50 years ago. And most of that water line is the original water line. When you get up in front of the dump, you can see a move just happened because you had to move the sidewalk 6 feet out into the road. You had to redo some drainage there. So the water lines are still remaining in place on that road, but their position in the road are different because the road's changed. So just keep that into mind when we think about the water lines are in the wrong place. They may be in the wrong place today, but they might not have been in the wrong place when they were installed. And I think the reverence that's paid now with contractors putting those water lines in is different than it was 60 years ago as well. So just keep that in mind when we talk about infrastructure. The sewer lines that are in there now and the drainage lines are completely different than they were 50 years ago. So any questions for me while you got me?
I think that that comment was made, and then for the future, we're going to be closely watching what lines go down where.
Absolutely.
From Mr. Joy, and that was a well-taken point, because what happened 50 years ago, nobody, was around to control it, really. I mean, it just happened, and now we're living with it.
True. Now we've got oversight inspectors.
Yes.
We've got people on site. Those issues.
Right.
Like
Hopefully it'll help.
The place in Osprey, when you have a culvert, you look at the culvert, you can see the water line. How it hasn't frozen is beyond me. So that's something we got to rectify, working with Kevin on that. And lastly, thank you for the appointment you made to Kent County Water. So now we have two voices that represent Coventry there. So it was a great appointment. Thanks for appointing him to
I
that.
think we have one question. Mrs. Carlson?
Scott, I was coming up Arnold Road over the weekend, and if you're going towards 3, on the right-hand side is where obviously they're putting new sidewalk, all the little yellow flags.
Sure.
That's a dig safe thing probably. Is that Kent County Water there?
No, yellow is normally gas.
Oh, okay, okay.
You'll see there's some other issues there as well. You'll see the hydrant heights. The hydrant heights are very difficult to control. Hydrants are made to, when they get hit by a truck or a car, to break away. You'll see in several spots on the road, they changed the elevation of the road, they've changed the elevation of the sidewalks. And you'll see in some cases, the hydrants are far out of the ground. In some cases, they look like they're under the concrete. Some of those issues have to get addressed this coming year, because by burying those hydrants in the concrete, they will not break away like they're supposed to if they ever get struck. It's not going to be like television where the water shoots out. That doesn't happen. A great occasion doesn't happen. But the heights of the hydrants are going to get addressed this year. And in some cases, when they change the height of the road, they've also got to change the height of the hydrant. So the project and the engineer in the project and the contract for the project is going to have to bear that cost. So some of those things may come up.
I've got a comment too. Appreciate, you made a comment about the location of the lines. You still dig safe the street, and you still know where the water lines are. So when these contracts are going out for bid, you have a definite.
Absolutely.
All right, so there shouldn't be that much controversy where it is. You guys, when you dig safe an area, you know exactly where it is and the depth it is and so on, right?
I agree, Kerry, and that has to happen. It's by law that it has to happen.
Right.
The problem comes in is when there's a water line that was put in, or a sewer line, or a gas line that was put in, and it had to be moved because of ledge or an existing condition underground back then. And that didn't get transmitted back to as-built documents. So the contractor's going along and he's digging through to put his new sewer line, and he comes upon a gas line that's not supposed to be there, or a water line that was supposed to be 4 feet away. Well, there was something else that made that happen in that position. So although they're marked, but if you dig a hole at the corner of South Main Street and Route 3, you'd be amazed. There's a cluster, it looks like New York City underground right there. There's sewer, water, gas in multiple locations, and private sewer line. What was the private force main? All in the same cluster. It looks like underground New York City at that intersection. So the as-built forcing to get those as-builts afterwards are important. And going forward, you have a record of what went in the ground.
Yeah, I mean, that should have been done years ago.
Should've.
As-built should have been, if it changed, I mean, you guys still have a way of monitoring and tell where your water line is.
Absolutely, and we rely on, we'll come out, or not me, obviously,
Right,
but the crews will come out, and as well as DigSafe, it's just fantastic. They come out, and I think you vet the contractors very well that you hire, so, and you've got some oversight on them as well. But everything's color-coded. Blue is water, yellow gas, sewer's got a color, electrical's got a color, so they usually flag it pretty well.
Oh, okay, thank you, and thank
Thanks
you
for-
for your good work on the Kent County Water Authority.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. Yes, well, there was one right there first, so Mr. Spearman, then next, okay. Good evening.
Hi, my name is Susan Paoletta, Fort Whistle Lane. Thank you. I'll be under 3 minutes. You time me. I want to say thank you to Karen Carlson and also to Mr. Waters and Mr. Gorham and Ms. Wells regarding the amendments that Karen proposed. I think, Mr. Gorham, you helped write. I'm not sure who wrote them. I was assuming they were done, finished. I thought they were going to be presented tonight. Obviously, I was mistaken. They are important. They're to protect the taxpayer. Everybody, Greg, I was at the town hall discussion meeting with Mr. Shipley and you. The level of anxiety, were your words, Greg, on this whole gun range thing. I think the amendment, if it's not written, it needs to be written, and it should be on the next agenda for discussion, first reading, whatever you guys want to call it. Get the ball moving. I'm very disappointed. I know several taxpayers, residents are very disappointed and frustrated that we have to be begging for this change that probably shouldn't have been in the zoning ordinance to begin with. But like, how can we correct it and get it done? Do you think it will be on the 26th, the next meeting? I know we're not supposed to ask questions, I'm probably over 3 minutes.
Discussion, it might be. I can't guarantee
I just
it,
want to
but-
get the ball
yeah.
rolling. It just seems
We
very
understand your concern.
frustrating
Yep.
that it's been over a month,
Right.
the application got pulled, everybody was like, okay, great, but we all know that the zoning ordinance, that the way it's written right now is weak, and it should be corrected. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Spearman, you pointed, yes. Okay, thank you for keeping order here. Hi, come on forward.
Hi,
Name and address, please.
my name is Lynn Andrews. My address is 201 Richardson Road in Western Coventry. I'm a member of the advisory board at the Coventry Senior Center and Department of Human Services, as are many of us tonight. I have a statement to read, please. We, as taxpayers who depend on the Coventry Senior Center, are very frustrated and quite frankly outraged over the status of the Senior Center building. We are alarmed to hear different things than what were presented to us prior to voting on the bond. It was our understanding that the Senior Center and Human Service building was to be built new next to the existing building on 50 Wood Street first, while remained open as a senior center, and then we would move into the new part. Then the police department would start the process of building their police station. Now we are hearing that this is not the case. Were we lied to by the people in charge? We are hearing that we need to be relocated and are concerned over the status of the meal site and how we will conduct our programs for our residents. We were never informed that we would be have a disruption of service. We met with the former director and chief of police and listened to their presentations, which never spoke of the senior center losing space, being closed, or being relocated. Now we see the plans that show we have less meeting and activity space than we have currently, and the layout is virtually one room cut up cutting up the meal site space. Something is not making sense here. The police department cannot put the EOC into one of our limited spaces. We only have 2 activity rooms available to us at this point. We understand that currently the EOC is at the Town Hall Annex building that provides them adequate space. It doesn't appear that the police complex is going to be smaller than what they have now. What happens to the people who come to the meal site for their daily meal? What happens to the Meals on Wheels coordinates for the homebound individuals? How do all the programs for the community meet? Where do our residents go to meet with social workers for assistance? Where do we go to see the nurses on a weekly basis? What happens to the developmentally disabled people who attend Project Friends? They are licensed by the state and need to have an appropriate environment. In addition to the senior center, this building has also been the Department of Human Services for the younger population. Who is overseeing the best interests of the community? We have diligently paid our taxes in this town. We have supported many projects throughout the years. And where is the transparency in this? This is not what we supported or what we voted on.
Thank you for coming out tonight. I know it is still a work in progress, so I don't know what you've heard or haven't heard, and I don't think it's been finally decided yet, but they're going to try to do the best they can and keep within the costs and accommodate if there is any type of movement, but I can't promise anything right now, but we have heard your comments, all right?
I would
And-
like to ask
yeah.
you one question. Is it legal? Is it legal to change the bond issue as written?
I think what you're talking about is not so much the dollar amount, is basically the construction and the costs and how it gets, finalized.
Allocated.
Yes, exactly. So I assume, I'm not a lawyer, but I would assume that's legal. It has to get done. It's within the dollar amount, and I know the building committee and those on it and the advisory are doing the best they can. But again, thank you for coming out tonight. All right, and appreciate your comments.
Next.
Yes. Anybody, because we're, want to keep this thing going. I heard you. I just was going a little bit longer, but thank you. Appreciate it.
Hi, my name's Paul McGrath. I live at 91 Calvingtown Road.
Okay. Excuse me, 1 second. I think people are leaving, and we're just trying to hear you. Okay, go ahead.
I'm addressing the gun range. Greg, I appreciate it. I would like to see you at the meeting, have the discussion, I think so. What I would like to suggest is to try to speed this up. I personally have spent $4,000 fighting this thing, and I can't afford to do it again. So if another applicant comes along and comes in before we can do something about it, we're up the creek. That's all I'd like to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, the gentleman with the blue and black check. I think you were asking about public comment earlier, so let's go with you first. And then Mr. G.
Ralph Pratt, 900 Hopkins Hollow Road in Green. Have some questions about or comments about the Historic District Commission standards and guidelines. First comment is I'm a little worried about the applicability and also the standards and guidelines. It says standards and guidelines. It reads more like an ordinance, like a 64-page ordinance. Page 1 under application, applicable to all structures lying within the Coventry Historic District as established by ordinance. As Ms. Wells pointed out, it's difficult to find the ordinance that establishes how a historic district is made. And as Councilperson Carlson pointed out, I was part of the group that established the Roaring Brook and Hopkins Hollow Historic District. We did do that. There was quite a lot of work. We didn't do it so the town could tell us what to do. So I'm a little concerned about how it gets applied. How does a historic district get established? Do the people within the historic district get a chance to comment, and before the 64-page ordinance comes down on them? Just a couple more points. The review process has on page 3 the certificate of appropriateness. It says is required to obtain a building permit for work on properties within the historic district or otherwise designated. So it's got room for properties that aren't within a historic district to be applied to it. Also, same thing on, I believe it's page 4, full public hearing. Alterations, new construction, moving and demolishing structures and their pertinences in historic district or unqualified outlying properties. Again, raising the possibility that you could have a house that's on the National Register, not even be in a historic district, and then, be told what to do. I very much would like us to think twice about enacting this, give people a chance to have a say on whether that this will be applied to them.
Well, I appreciate your comments. I think if you wanted to email your comments, I'm sure they'd be received and passed along. I understand it's, again, nowhere near being ready to be approved, so there'll be a lot of work in progress. Right now, we have 2 historical
I do have
buildings.
Ms.
So-
Wells' email.
Okay,
so
all right.
I'm sure she'll be getting
Well,
an email from
we hear you.
All right.
Thank you. Someone, yes, Mr. Ghizzarelli, please. Good evening, sir. And just for the record, if you would, name and address.
Ronald Ghizzarelli, 50 Harrington Road. Also mention Tioga Lake member and waterfront property because of a couple of things I need to bring up. In the last couple of months, I've had a few phone calls. A lot of our members and non-members are interested in what's going on with the sewers, of course, because of the cost. And connecting to it, including those who have spent is up to $30,000 to change their systems because they were not acceptable and failing. And because of that, they're wondering, as they come to the meetings a few at a time, it's low-key right now because they hope everything will work out. Right. The moment there's some, before the decisions are made, they're hoping to come and come and talk in either masses or in groups so that the town council understands the dilemma of the cost to them that it is to stay in their older homes, most of them. And I mentioned about the Tioga Lake Association because I've had some calls and they indicated they don't know a lot of the people. They know the town council members by the heading, but years ago, if I remember correctly, Mr. President, Seal used to be here and we had some of the staff, like the town solicitor, the town manager, financial director, the town clerk, sergeant at arms, and I'm not sure if we had the sound technician, but it would be nice if some of the new people that are coming, taxpayers in the town, would get to know some of the people that are here that are not mentioned on our heading. So would the town council please take a look at that? I think it would be helpful on the documents we get for the meetings. The second part is there seems to be a problem with the meetings because we get them free from the Kent County Times. And unless, and I found out about this years ago, and I was pressing them pretty heavy and bragging about the paper because we could get all local news and we could get the meetings of what was going on here, West Warwick, and so forth. But they've been missing the meetings every now and then, including tonight's meeting is not in the Kent County Times. And I got 3 or 4 phone calls, and a lot of them don't have computers. They're older people. They can't afford the utilities. Some of them have lost their spouses, and that's why they're struggling even with the sewer costs. So I just wanted to mention that I don't know what we can do, but I've called up and talked to the editor and the associate editor several times, and they more or less said somebody is missing it or whatever, but I don't know what the town can do. I don't want you to have to pay for putting the meetings in, but also there's a problem with 6 o'clock versus 7 o'clock. It may say that on the state website, but if they're looking at the paper and it says a meeting is at 6 o'clock and they come, they have to wait an hour until the executive session is over for the board, the town council. So I want to mention that. Last but not least, I don't know what's happened up to now with regard to us trying to get the lake reclassified as a artificial body of water, man-made. Nobody's ever been flooded to all the research we've done for 2 years that we know of that's ever been flooded because of the way we're able to control the lake with the dam and the gatehouse, including the rough drawing the Tioga Lake Association sent into DEM, and the town worked with it, and they practically built the dam protective levels behind the main dam almost to the T, except they're missing the containment area that comes down the hill that needs a guillotine before it goes underground into the Patuxent River, and Patuxent River Authority is very interested in what's going to happen there because they agree with that as well, because they don't want anything that might go bad on Tioga Avenue on our side, to be coming and going down there without containment. And I found out by looking at the pole over near the ramp, the town ramp, that both of those areas where there are catch basins, it goes under Tioga Avenue instead of going straight down and going to Patuxent River. That's interesting. And we've got such a small body of water. We got the largest public beach, if not the only one. I heard there's another one. But I'm saying I think it would be very important to finish that and just contain that area. So we'll go into that area with a little guillotine that I drew on the drawing, and everybody agreed with it all, but we haven't got to that part, and I think it would be very inexpensive to cover that pipe, contain the area till we pump out anything that can come down that half-a-mile hill. So I thought it would be very helpful to all of us and to Tioga Avenue and to Patuxent River going down all the way to Cranston. So keep that in mind, and I hope someone would look into that and find out if, I talked to Engineer Joyle today, and I asked him about also the reclassification, redesignation of our lake. And at this point in time, we're being low-key about it. There's 88 people on a petition, 22 that got foreclosed on, 6 more that are pending, that we've got them to stop foreclosure until the designation was determined. And we'll get into that in some detail with the town solicitor and whoever else is designated when we get to there. But I'd like to be an input person to FEMA and Loma so they realize that we've done a lot of research on it. It can be very helpful to the town in the redesignation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know we went a little bit over, Mr. Waziga. Thank you. Anyone else? Public comment? Is this gentleman coming up? All right. And then that gentleman there with the black hat.
Kevin Snow, 36 Edward Street. When the woman came up and spoke for the senior housing, you mentioned that you weren't a lawyer, but yet Mr. Gorham didn't offer the woman any advice, whether you had any or not. I just, as a citizen, it doesn't look good. The 2 points I had, not the last town council meeting, Mr. Shibley, but the meeting before, I suggested to you to have another meeting at the high school regarding the sewers. I haven't heard anything, any mention of that. Have you thought about that or given that consideration?
As you know, it's under study right now, and I have not given it any consideration. First, we'd like to know what the experts are saying before we have a show and tell.
Okay.
The public some come forward. So, no, to answer your question, I have not. We're waiting for the end results, but
That's
again,
fair.
I appreciate your question.
The other question I have for you, Mr. McGee, since I live in your district, would you be willing to meet with myself and a group of citizens in your district, say some Sunday morning for coffee, and just go over talk about the sewer thing very casually?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely I will. But as President Shibley said, a lot of the stuff is going to be answered when we get our report back.
Okay.
But I'll be more than happy to sit down and answer what I can. A lot of this stuff is already out, but absolutely.
Okay, I'll give you my information after, and
Yeah,
that's fine. Well, thank you.
That's fine.
Thank you. Gentleman with a black cap. Black hat? I don't know what, I think it's still called a cap. Yes.
You don't have to get right up on top of these
Okay.
mics. This mic is real sensitive and it's getting your breathing and everything else. You can
Okay.
stay off a little bit.
Stay back a little bit, okay.
You have to get right on top.
Name and address, sir, for the record.
All right, Roland Gamlin, 10 White Rock Road. I have one question. We have 3 older schools in the town, Black Rock, Hopkins Hill, and the Tioga School. And I'm sure they're probably in the need of upgrade. My question is, and I asked it at the meetings we had for the police station and senior center, why are we hanging on to the Oak Haven School? I went by there a couple of weeks ago, and it's costing us money to keep that running. I see the school was using it as a maintenance area and support system. Why don't we sell that school and use the money to upgrade the older schools. It's costing the taxpayers money now for utilities and oil and to heat it and repairs. Why are we hanging on to it?
I understand your question. I don't have necessarily a definitive answer. I live in the neighborhood,
Right,
and I understand that it's being used by the public school building maintenance crew, because luckily we have that, because we wouldn't have anywhere else to put them, and that's freeing up the facility.
Where were they before?
Well, they were at Wood Street.
Well,
And
I'm
that's
sure
going to be.
I'm sure there's room up at the Washington Oak. I mean, because that was another building that was no.
Well, as you
good
know,
without
probably,
this.
and I'm not here to comment on public comment, but all the school buses are behind the town annex, 40 or 45 buses. That's where they are now, because they had to be moved out. And also, the maintenance has been moved out, because that was required, and that's why they're at Oak Haven School. The other half of the building, who knows if it's going to be needed in the future, and if the town got a good offer, I'm sure we'd be entertaining to sell it. But right now, that's not on the drawing board, I guess is my answer to you.
All right, I thank you for that, but I can't see down the road coming to the taxpayers and saying you need money to upgrade the older schools. You've already just said that you're limited on the budget with this new senior center. Property we don't need is costing us money we need to dump.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, yes, good evening.
Kate Whitting Hill, 586 Old Main Street. I do have a question. I remember being in one of our town council meetings, and that the police station and the construction of it was being reviewed, and that there were no plans that night for anyone to see. And I was wondering whether or not, before this moves forward, if we're going to see actual plans of this construction. And if we do see plans of this construction, are we also going to see plans before final approval for what will happen with the seniors?
We have your question. I know there are some drawings.
Yes.
And there is the building committee, that's what they're charged.
Yes.
To make those decisions.
So what meeting do I go to see those plans?
The vote, the bond has been passed.
Yes.
The building, and I could maybe defer to Mr. Waters on that, but they're in charge of working with a plan, and we have also advisory members to that board.
Sure.
All right?
Yes.
The people to vote on it, that's not going to happen.
No, not necessarily to vote on it, to see it.
All right, to see it, I guess, Mr. Waters.
There's a building committee, they have public meetings. The meetings traditionally have been held at Coventry Lumber because the chair of the committee works at Coventry Lumber.
Yes.
They have been advertised open to the public.
Yes.
They're usually advertised on the town website and also the Secretary of State website. As far as the drawings, I know there is a tentative floor layout as far as office space and how the space will be divvied up. I don't think anybody's considered making that document public yet because it's still in the working, but it's
still in the works.
It's been presented at the meetings, but it's something I can ask the chairman and the architects to see if there's any problems. But
Yeah, it was just not necessarily that there's any problems, just to see it.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's advertised?
Yes, uh-huh.
Okay, great, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Is public comment or anything else? Okay, then we'll move right along to the next page on the agenda. We have D1, Mr. Waters or Mrs. Lavoy?
Mrs. Lavoy.
Application for a Class F liquor license for St. John and Paul Parish.
Okay. On this? Okay, public hearing has been mentioned that it's, we'll vote to have a public hearing now, is that right?
Motion open, public hearing.
And a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, at this time, though, I just feel that I'll just recuse myself of this particular item on the agenda, only because two of my four grandkids do attend the Father Doyle School, and to err on total the side of caution, to Mrs. Lavoy, I'll just recuse myself and call me back when this one's done. Okay? Thank you.
All right, so, yeah, we're looking for public comment at this point for, it's a liquor license, Class F liquor license for a fundraiser for St. John and Paul. Would anyone like to say anything for, against? Okay, what the date is so you can attend, you know. All right, seeing no one, I'll ask for a motion to close public hearing. Second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? No, all in favor? Aye. Okay, public comment is now closed, or public discussion on that. Now, I'll look for a motion to approve the license.
Is there a fee on this?
You know, there is a fee, a $15
Because we usually waive that.
License fee, okay.
But I don't
so
see it
why
on
don't you-
here.
Yeah, at the bottom of the Class F license, you can see $15 per day, it says
Where?
there. Right where,
Oh, in
on
the
the side of where it
teeny-tiny
says
print.
$5 per
Okay.
day.
I
So would you like to
also make
the
a motion to waive that and
Okay.
approve.
Okay. We have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the license with the waiver of the $15 fee. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None, 4-0. Thank you. Mr. Shibley's coming back.
I'm hustling as best I can after that walk yesterday. Still a little sore.
I hear you.
Okay, thank you. And next we have E section, and we have 1A, B, and C. I think we're probably thinking about taking them one at a time. It's a license for discussion and/or action. And the first one we have is A. Any questions on this particular? Yeah, we can read it. It's
Yeah, we don't-
E1, I'm sorry. JoJo's Cupcakes LLC, Joanne DiOrio, March 27th, 2018 through June 25th, 2018. And Mrs. Lavoy, I guess this is accurate, police have performed a records check with no issues. Zoning officer indicates no zoning concerns with the issuance of this license, correct? Okay. Any other comments or questions regarding E1?
Yeah, Mr. President, she's been paying to us several years, has
Right.
been a good businessman. I make a motion that we approve that license.
Okay?
I'll second.
A second. Motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so JoJo's Cupcakes has been approved. B, Mrs. Lavoy, do you want to read that for me? It's a TNT fireworks, I know.
TNT Fireworks, Christopher LaTorraca, 650 Center of New England Boulevard. And that's for June 15th through July 8th.
Okay.
Okay, and we see the dates
Yeah.
from June 15th, 2018 through July 8th,
Yeah.
2018. And I believe they've been located at the Walmart parking lot in past years. Same vendor, is it, from past years, okay? Anyone have any questions regarding this particular one?
Once again, I'd like to make a motion that we accept that pending the license subject to fire marshal inspection and police department.
Second.
Okay, motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. All right, and Mr. Lavoy, we have, the last one is C, the roadside shack. The dates are
March 13th
March 13th.
to June 11th.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can read it if you want, otherwise I will.
Roadside Shack at 2065 Nooseneck Hill Road, Richard Massey, March 13th to June 11th, for hawker's license.
Okay, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they were there as they moved from the corner of Reservoir and Route 3 down to that location, so this is the same location as last year, where they ended up.
That's correct.
Okay, does anybody have any questions I know it's subject to police and zoning approval. Any other questions?
No, I make a motion that we approve.
Okay, motion made, a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, and that's approved. So all three for three. Now we have F, section F, F1, which I think we all have in our package. Appointing one member and two alternate members to the Coventry Sewer Subcommittee. And well, they weren't typed because we have to vote on them, but do they not have
Yeah.
names on these, Mrs. Lavoy? I personally have it, but they do not.
You can just read them off.
All
That's
right,
fine.
well, all right, so to fill in the blanks, as I think we've discussed it, the full-time member would be to be reappointed. That's the top line, and that would be Mr. Tony Raposo, reappointed for a term expiring January 1st, 2021. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, 3-2. All right, so next, we have appointing two alternate members. One would be to the unexpired term expiring January 1st, 2019, and the other one would be term expiring January 1st, 2020. And I'll entertain comments. So we have the names, as we've had in the past, Kathleen Whittinghill and Jennifer Ludwig would be the names that we've had in the past. It's not necessarily the order, it's, those are the names on the alternate members. So if anyone wants to make a motion as to names going where, I guess that would be the time.
Yeah, I'd like to just make a motion that we put Kathy Whittinghill on, expires on the 2020 term, and the other name would be on...
2020 term?
I'm sorry, 2020 term.
2020.
And
Okay.
the other one would be on the 2019. I'm sorry, I don't recall the other name.
Jennifer
Jennifer
Ludwig.
Ludwig.
Okay.
Well, so that would be the expiration of 2019.
Yeah.
Okay, so that motion has been made. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made and second. All in favor of those, or that motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any opposed? No, all right. So those would be the names that we write in. Congratulations, I know Mrs. Whittinghill, yes, I guess I do, that's right. Is Mrs. Ludwig here tonight? Yes, you are, okay, great. Well, I have the swearing in, and if you would be so kind to come forward, and I'm just finishing writing in here, and it'll be the same swearing in, excuse me?
That's Mr. Raposo?
Oh, Mr.
I don't-
Raposa,
I
that's
don't know.
reappointment.
I
Are
don't
you
know if
here,
he's here.
sir?
No, I didn't
No,
see, I didn't
okay.
see him.
Okay.
I didn't see him.
So, Mrs. Lavoy, you'll have to, I guess, have him come in and swear him in, right? Okay. So, if you'd be so kind, just watch that lip there. If you would, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will be true and faithful to the state, support the laws and constitution thereof, and that you will well and truly execute the duties and responsibilities as a member of the sewer subcommittee for the term for which you were appointed, or until another be engaged in your place, so help you God? I do. Oh, congratulations, and I appreciate your volunteerism. It's not an easy job, but you guys.
Thank you very much, I appreciate you volunteering for it. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Welcome aboard.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Thank you, Kate.
Oh, my God. Thank you.
Okay, and again, thank you for your willingness to help out the town as we progress along and try to make it as least painful as possible and helpful where we can. So next, we have G. G1, Mrs. Lavoy, if you would be so kind to introduce this one.
Application for a new Class B liquor license with victualling and live show. It's the Bean Barn on 599 Tyoke Avenue.
Okay, is this public hearing?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
yes.
motion to have a public hearing then.
Motion open, public hearing.
All right, second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have public hearing now, and it is to discuss the application for the new Class B liquor license and victualling license and live show at 599 Tioga Avenue. Is Christine Petracca here? You are.
She is.
All right, great. Well, if you would be so kind, I know we have it on the application, but your name and address for the record? Kylie Way, that's right up past the high school. Okay, do you want to just tell us a little bit about the application? I know we have the information in front of us, but anything you could add? I'm sorry?
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
So basically, what the idea of Bean Barn is to create a community environment where we can have craft cocktails, some beer and some craft beer and wine selections to pair with food in a space that also offers different variations on coffee, which we don't really have in Coventry. The space is really going to embrace the community, where we're going to be inviting local artists to display their art on the walls. We are intending to reach out to the town English departments to see if they would be willing to host some poetry slams within the facility and have some local acoustic musicians on a regular basis.
Can I just ask a question? 599, where is that? What building is it?
That's the old Dairy Queen.
The old Dairy Queen. I thought that was it. I wasn't 100% sure. Okay,
It
great.
hasn't been in a long time.
Yeah.
Go by it 5 times a day.
I'm sure people would like to see it be a Dairy Queen again.
Yeah,
but-
yeah, it's the old timers, Dairy Queen, yeah.
Go pizza.
All right, well, again, sounds like a great idea. Questions of the council as we consider? And I know we got the public hearing, but any questions of the council as well?
Yeah, can I have a quick question? You
Yeah,
have
sure.
live entertainment. I know you mentioned you're going to bring some artisans in it to.
Certainly.
Well, any musical type live entertainment?
It would be mostly solo acoustic acts. The place is going to close pretty early, so it wouldn't be anything that would be operating past 9 or 10 o'clock at
All
night.
right, yeah, and it would be inside, but, you know.
Yes.
Great. Yeah, welcome you aboard. I think it's a great idea. I hate to see that building not being used, so it sounds good. I wish you luck.
Thank you.
Anyone from the public at this time to make a comment in that it's public hearing? I know, is that building right now vacant? I know that it's.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's vacant.
I thought so. Okay, and I know there's that other entertaining ideas which have not been accepted in the past, but this sounds like a winner. And the only thing we need, I guess, before the town issues the license, as you probably know, Board of Health approval, certificate of good standing, fire inspection, food management certificate, proof of alcohol servers training. You have all that down, right? That's all required yet?
Well, they probably wouldn't get that till after the approval,
Oh,
and then
all right.
on a stipulation.
Oh,
that
after the
needs it,
approval.
yeah.
All right,
They wouldn't go through a lot of that until
Got
they
it.
got approval for that.
Yeah, you know that better than
Oh,
me
yeah.
on these businesses. Okay.
And I'd actually like to say a little something.
sure.
Thanks for doing that. You know, being a musician and entertainer, I mean, I love to see new venues open with that. And I know that for the town of Westerly, it's been fantastic along the Main Street, a business just that you may be modeling it after Perks and Corks down that way, or have seen what they
It's
do.
similar sort of idea.
Situation, a very comfortable type of atmosphere that people can go enjoy a coffee or a cocktail, hear some music, and just, you know, good conversation to spend in town. So thanks. I love the idea.
Great.
I know our sound technician, he's very favorable of establishments like that.
Yeah. He likes coffee, is that it?
All right.
And there you go. Okay, any other questions? Have we closed the public hearing?
Just,
Yes.
He's good.
Oh, go ahead.
just for the record to clarify, because the statute, which for reference is Title III, Chapter 7, Section 7.3, it says you have to specify that there's going to be entertainment or it's restricted. Now, I understand that that's the application. It says live show on it.
Yeah.
I think you just want to make sure you specify that when you approve it, so that the town clerk will know that that's approved.
Okay.
Or with a live entertainment.
With a
license.
live show entertainment.
Yeah.
We have two separate applications in our file, one for a live show and one for victualling.
Okay, I just want to make sure you specify it when you approve it.
Okay, thank you.
It's obviously something that is part
Well,
of the
you've actually
license.
got three. You've got a victualling, you've got.
Oh,
liquor
three
license.
different ones. Do we approve one at a time or all of them?
All of them together, I guess.
I think you can approve all of them together,
I
as
think
long as
so,
you make
too.
a proper motion.
Right. Okay, well.
All right, you want to make the motion then?
Well, we got to close the
Oh,
public hearing
yes,
first.
public hearing. A
Anybody
motion to
else
close the
have
public hearing?
Nobody else to speak?
Motion
So
to,
moved.
all right, second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right, we're closed. A motion now
And I'll-
to accept and,
Yeah, I'll make a motion
clarify
to,
it.
I'll make a motion to approve the liquor license, the victualling house license, and the live entertainment license for the Bean Barn Incorporated.
okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Well, congratulations, and again, now you have to get all those other approvals in, and any idea when they might be opening? Within a month or two. Very good.
Fantastic.
Appreciate it. Love businesses, and I love it in District 4. All right. Thank you. All right, at this time, motion to adjourn.
So, second.
A second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, well, be safe tomorrow. Thank you for your patience, and see ya, with the 19th, we got the budget meeting. 19th.